Howdy, Nerevar. Good to see you, partner. Welcome back to my sermon this fine day. Can you reckon what we'll be chatting about today? Well, I reckon we'll be fixin' to talk about why them Redguard Noirs ain't quite the apple of my eye. But enough of that jabbering. I gotta mosey along to tend to my betties. First off, they're like sand Nords, plain and simple. They holler and cuss, wielding them oversized weapons just like the Nords do. Both sets are rough around the edges, but a good old Dunmer can straighten them out. Though I reckon the Nords got a tad more sense to them. Them Redguards ain't got no honor. They're like a pack of outlaws toting curved swords and masks, sneaking about at night like bandits. You wake up, something's missing, and sure enough, you find sand all over your place. Dirtying everything up seems to be their trademark. And speaking about humans, well, they're all the same dang thing, ain't they? Imperials. Now they're the worst of the lot. Can't trust them one bit, always playing politics and thinking they're better than the rest. They swagger around acting all high and mighty, yet they're just as flawed as the rest. Always meddling where they ain't welcome, trying to impose their ways on everyone else. I reckon they're worse than a band of mud crabs snapping at your heels. But this ain't 'bout 'em. Secondly, their land's just a heap of sand akin to Skyrim. Swap out the snow for sand and the mountains for dunes, and there you have it. Everything in that place is looking to take a bite out of you, even them Redguards. Not a drop of water to be found. Reckon you'd have to drink something else's blue just to get a sip. Living in that desert, you'd have to be downright savage. Complaining seems downright pointless, and their nation ain't even named after some cultural or religious thingamajig. Nope, these unoriginal critters just translated the name of some old Dwemer city they then took over and used as their capital. Volenfell, the place where the hammer Volendrung fell after some Dwemer with arms like a catapult heaved it. Yes, sirree. They went and named their whole nation after where a hammer landed. Mighty strange, wouldn't you say? Yet they called themselves Redguards, like they came from a place called Redguard land or some such. I ain't one to disrespect others without cause, but there's plenty who deserve it. Thirdly, these Redguard Noirs got their own gods like all Noirs do, but they call them Papa. They ain't even sure who they ought to be worshiping, with the crowns and the forebears praying to different sets of false gods. If that ain't strange enough, they go and practice mummification. Can't stress enough, Nerevar, how unclean that primitive practice seems to me. Then some necromancer comes strolling by, finds a body all preserved like, but full of diseases, raises it up, and who do they ask to blast it away with a fireball? Why, that'd be adventurers like you, Nerevar, and it's all 'cause their culture won't let 'em fight the honored dead. So someone else has to do it for 'em. Fourthly, their whole society's a mishmash. You got the older folk wanting things to stay like they used to, and then you got the young'uns wanting to live for the now. Redguards take this split to the extreme, dividing their society in two. The crowns reckon their folk and destiny are separate from the rest of Tamriel, wanting to isolate their country to preserve Yokudan culture and values. Then you got the forebears, saying, Yokuda's sunk. Folks, this here's Hammerfell now, and they fancy a Hammerfell that's part and parcel of the rest of Tamriel, trading ideas and all. Did you know, Nerevar, that the Yokudan folk were poets, scholars, and mystics? Reckon that translated poorly into their fighting style. Which brings me to reason number 5. They had themselves a heap of civil wars, making them bookworms pick up blades and spears to go at each other. You'd think such learned folks would be diplomatic. Anyway, they put their magical and artsy nonsense into their fighting style called sword singing, and their finest warriors are called onse. Pelinal prattled on, "Bout 'em before. I ain't gonna waste my time on such foolishness. You know what's a mighty fine sixth reason to dislike these Noirs? They sunk their own blamed continent. Yep, heard me right. These folks managed to crack and sink their own homeland. Gotta give it to 'em. It makes Bardal look like a pimple by comparison. But why? Why'd they go and do that? You see, their society revolved round these sword singers, and one bunch, called the Hiradurje, were sore losers. They decided to use their fancy stone magic to break and sink the continent after losing in a civil war. That there's enough reason to keep these dangerous and mentally unstable folks far, far away. Last thing we need is another loony Redguard wielding that kind of power in Tamriel. Got enough trouble with all them Daedric rubbish falling from the sky, and them little villains trying to doom reality for the pettiest reasons. Seventh, the Redguards' fascination with keeping a cloak of mystery about their origins is both irksome and laughable. They're mighty keen on crafting tales about their history, trying to spin it like some grand treasure hunt. Truth is, their history's as plain as a skeever's tale. They go whispering about their heritage like it's some hidden treasure, but it's just as common as can be. Now the eighth, and I reckon you won't be surprised, is none other than Nazeem. That fella's the embodiment of arrogance, I reckon. In the whole history of Tamriel, that highfalutin gent in Whiterun, always strutting round, boasting about his so-called status. Cross paths with him, and you're in for a whirlwind of self-importance and snootiness, prattling on about the Cloud District like it's some lofty realm. That fella flaunts his wealth and puts others down, making even the most patient dragonborn want to shout a Fus Ro Da straight at him. Now, for all his claiming to be top dog in Whiterun, he don't do a lick of good for the city or its folk. Gotta admit, though, folks get right creative on how to put an end to his unnecessary existence in ways you'd never imagine. Even I've conjured up a method or two if I ever cross paths with him. Ninth, let's talk about their fascination with them absurdly oversized, curved weapons. They parade around with these silly big swords like they're making up for something. It's downright funny how they reckon swinging them giant blades makes them martial prodigies. Truth is, their reliance on them impractical blades shows a lack of skill and smarts in battle. Any done to outmaneuver them with a fine blade or overpower them with some expertly enchanted spell? Seems like they believe size equals skill. 10th, their sense of entitlement knows no bounds. These folks walk around acting like the world owes them respect and recognition just cause of their heritage. Their overblown arrogance and disregard for other cultures and traditions make 'em right tiresome to deal with. They strut round thinking they're superior, dismissing others left and right, a behavior that's as vexing as it is confounding. Well, ain't that the cherry on top? The prime reason, no need to even paint it clear, is because they're downright Inwas. They give me a powerful big case of farm tool feelings about 'em too, but I ain't fixing to let no Redguard Inwa set foot on my lands. No, sir, I get farm tool vibes from just about anybody. Nerevar, be it a Nord, Breton, Imperial, or some other Inwa. Now, I don't like you insinuating the inequality within my disdain towards Inwas. If you think that, I would kindly ask you to get off my mountain. And don't you forget to honor the 6th Ranch and the tribe unmourned by hitching up your thumbs, subscribing to my sermons, and sharing your reckonings in the dried skin below. I'm much obliged to all my patrons, especially tip of the hat to the adoring fan, Connor Runda, and a heap of thanks to this realm's current Charmats, Dane Snyder and Tanya Davis. Have yourself a good partner.